Hello, everyone. Thank you again for your patience with the technology. Someday I'm going to start one of these sessions by not having to thank people for their patience with the technology, but unfortunately today is not that day. I would like to just clarify some expectations right up front for people so that we're not wasting people's time if the session is not a good use of their time. Last month's office hours were talking about operational issues involved in adjusting to the recent New World Order in 340B. We actually ran that session twice because of such significant technical issues the first time around. We have received many, many requests to run a similar session now, even at the risk of repeating some stuff we've said already, for a couple reasons. First of all, because the world has changed somewhat, so there are some new tweaks and issues we need to worry about that we hadn't before. And also because, honestly, some people kind of in September were hoping they really didn't need to pay attention to this, and now, unfortunately, you know, the rubber has hit the road. We have 3 manufacturers not shipping to contract pharmacies, and people need to. So we will provide updates as possible, but a lot of this will sound familiar if you listen to last month's session. So I just want to tell people that so that we're not using your time ineffectively. General information about these about this session. Number one, we have a lot of experts on the line. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat box, or I guess now we have official Q&A things. Oh, now the link on Noddlepod isn't working. I don't know if anybody can help clear that up. At least that's what it looks like. But please feel free to put your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box. Doesn't have to have anything to do with what we're talking about in the official thing. This is your chance to access lawyers and auditors and pharmacists and get your questions answered, so please do that. Also, these slides are incredibly hot off the press. They're based on last month's, but they are posted on Noddlepod, I believe now, Tim. Susan, I think, just sent them out to everybody who got the invitation for this meeting. They are not on the NAC website because the NAC website is crashed and is not down right now. But we promise we will make them available to people who need them afterwards as well. So, okay, so they're not there right now. Okay, very, very important announcement here, which is that this session is funded by the Bureau of Primary Health Care. So we cannot talk about advocacy. We can state facts about what's going on in certain situations, but we cannot talk about advocacy. As you may have heard, there was a lawsuit filed last Friday on behalf of the Ryan White providers against HRSA for what the providers allege is HRSA's failure to use its appropriate authority to penalize contract manufacturers who are not shipping 340B priced drugs to contract pharmacies. Given that lawsuit is now officially been filed, it's on the books, HRSA is not allowed to talk to anybody about pretty much anything about 340B. I don't know if they're allowed to spell out how to spell the name of the program at this point. That's just the rules when you are a Fed. So I will share some facts as we go along, but you'll notice a lack of any advocacy focus. Remember, we have the Advocacy Noddlepod website. Email Susan. If you want access to that, you can find lots of information there. Also, as I mentioned, the slides might not be perfect because NAC's website NAC's system would not accept slides today. So just we're having to ask you to bear with us on that at all. I guess just a repeat, that was just what I already said. Okay, agenda today, I'm going to give some updates about particularly really focusing on things that have happened since the last month or things coming up that you should be aware of. And then I'm going to turn it over to Tim to talk about operational issues. Tim, assisted by some of our crackerjack, always willing to be voluntold pharmacists to help address some of these operational issues. And then we'll open it up to Q&A. The first thing I want to do is introduce people to NAC's new Director of Health Center Operations and Training, Brandon Jones. Brandon is there. Can you wave, Brandon? I see you there. Hey, Brandon, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, your background in the health center world, and what your role is at NAC?
Sure. Thank you, Colleen. And good afternoon, everyone. You've probably seen my name floating around, at least for the last couple months. I'm hitting on about 15 days shy of my 90-day window here at NAC. I'm excited. As a former FQHC executive, I worked, Sue may recognize me from my years in South Carolina at Little River, but I worked as a COO for a health center down there at Little River Medical Center for about 5.5 years. And I kind of moved up as I grew professionally, but I moved up to Syracuse Community Health Center, worked in a health center, 2 health centers in Pennsylvania, more recently in Harrisburg, and I spent my last 3 years as a nonprofit CEO for a hospice organization, so post-acute care here in Southern Maryland. So I've been here in the D.C. area for about 4.5 years. And concurrently, in the last 3 years, I've been on the board, and I just recently became a board chair of an FQHC. So you can tell I'm kind of, I've gotten all perspectives of a health center employee, executive, and certainly as a board member too. So, and obviously in the operations roles, I've spent quite a bit of time working closely with my pharmacy director colleagues at each of those health centers. Each of them had either an in-house pharmacy or they obviously contracted with an in-house pharmacy that was a retail pharmacy. So a couple of different perspectives. But in my role here at NAC, I'll be obviously health center, all things health center operations and HR training, with a particular focus on telemedicine, telehealth, also emergency management, pharmacy. This is part of my portfolio, working closely with Colleen and now with Tim on the pharmacy access hours and operations related items as it relates to pharmacy. And moving forward, Colleen and I will, before it's actually transition, I'll work with her to serve as your lead, your NAC lead for the office hours with the pharmacist. So, and I'll make sure I send my email in the chat so you all have it. And I'm looking forward to working with everyone moving forward. So thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Brandon. We are so lucky to have somebody with such a wealth of health center expertise as staff and as a board member, not to mention the mission thing, as I call it. And that just relates also, as Brandon alluded to, I have given notice at NAC. My last day will be December 4th. And so we're transitioning. It's always been a little odd that training and TA for pharmacy sat in the policy office as opposed to the training and TA office. So with my departure, training and TA is being transitioned over to Brandon. So Tim will be on contract. He is to provide support for health centers around pharmacy. So he'll still be here. And also, I'm actually not going really that far. I'm going to be doing policy work directly on behalf of the state primary care associations. I'm going to be working directly for them. So I won't be sitting in this chair anymore, but I'm not really going to be super far away. If anybody has any questions about my transition, I know there's been a lot of misunderstandings out there that might not reflect well on people involved, and I just want to be sure to clear all that up. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy. This is not the forum, but I'm happy to talk to people about that, and looking forward to continuing to work on this in this field when I start with the PCAs in November, or excuse me, in January. So,
Colleen, can I interrupt you for a minute? Because I also want to add to that comment that as the current acting chair of the Pharmacy Access Work Group for NAC, you can be sure we won't hesitate to reach out and contact you as we need.
Right. You'll still see me in Zoom calls with the exact same background, I'm never turning the camera around so you don't see how messy the kitchen is. So, thank you. Okay, so with that done, let me move on to right to you, Sue, about the conference.
Okay. Sure. Well, there's actually two things I wanted to talk about briefly. The first is in this world that is moving very rapidly sometimes, we are looking towards the programming for the upcoming 340B Coalition Conference, the Winter Conference, which is, we're so used to being in sunny San Diego, and typically the end of January, beginning of February. I regret that we probably will not be in sunny San Diego yet, Look forward to the day we are again. But once again, my health center has been brought under contract to develop the SQHC programming for that. We anticipate that once again we'll have 3 expert topic sessions, as well as our breakout session. And I am going to encourage you all to send me topic ideas, everything except what we have been talking about over the last few months. And the reason I say that is I think that there's going to continue to be a lot of opportunities for us to have discussions around what has emerged in the market and with the manufacturers and how things are proceeding there. I really would like us to try to focus the conference programming around how we continue to optimize the program and be as compliant as possible. So I'd ask you to kind of take your hats off in terms of the crisis thought and think about what we could do at the conference that will really drive optimization of the program and compliance in the program. Email me. Everybody typically has my email address, but I'll put it in the chat for those who may not, because I'm sure there are always some new people, and that allows me to then transition to one quick comment that I wanted to make about site registration. Tim and I have worked with a health center just this week, and I have had one other health center talk to me about the fact that their in-house pharmacies, totally in-house, operating under their 501c3 umbrella, licensed owned by the health center, and actually inside a medical site in 2 different locations, are being treated by Eli Lilly as contract pharmacies. And as we dug into the situation, what we discovered was that, let me make sure everybody understands, this is a pretty common flaw that people have when they're new to the program. They think, okay, the OPA database, okay, I need to register my pharmacy. When in fact, if you have in-house pharmacy, what you register, actually, we all register every one of our medical sites. The medical sites from which you want prescriptions to be eligible for 340B. You don't register an in-house pharmacy on OPACE. Under the umbrella of your organization, typically under your main site, you will register contract pharmacies. But contract pharmacies are the only pharmacies you register. Unfortunately, because this person, relatively new to 340B, she registered her pharmacies. So she registered the name of her pharmacy and a pharmacy address, which the wholesaler looks at and sees that that's not their health center. It doesn't actually, what they were told was it didn't match to the name in the HRSA EHB. So I would encourage every one of you on the call, particularly if you're new and haven't really looked at your site registration recently, make sure you're registered correctly so this isn't another opportunity to have an administrative nightmare of trying to untangle a knot that gets tied. I put up here an example because one of the questions was, well, how do I get my ship to, if it's in-house and all I'm registering are my health center sites, how do I get my ship to address? And so you can see this is one of my sites. It is registered as a health center, but my pharmacy addresses are under the ship-to addresses, even though they're in-house pharmacies. So hopefully that's exceedingly clear, and we have a lot of experienced people on the call, so it may not be a problem others have run into, but it just is so disheartening to see that because of where we are today, this type of slight error in registration could result in what could end up being a pretty big reconciliation challenge. And Kim, you may have something to add to that.
I think you covered it fully. The only thing is we did not add a ship-to address for our in-house pharmacy since it was at our primary site, and it was
right. Ours are standalone,
no different.
so that's why we did. Yeah,
that's
ours
right.
Standalone,
yep.
So we had to add the ship-to get the drugs there.
Perfect. Thank you, Sue.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, I mean, it feels so mild compared to everything else we've dealt with. Today is the end of day 5 of the official 2-week registration period that comes up quarterly for health centers. And to register new sites and contract pharmacy arrangements. If you're registering new contract pharmacy arrangements, remember that they may come back and ask to see the contract to make sure that everything was dated appropriately, et cetera. I am confident that if you need to register a site a little later, we will be able to figure out how to get that done. But the woman who used to send me the extended deadlines every quarter recently retired, so I don't know yet what actually that is. And Brandon, I should share with you how to make that connection. Also, one thing I just want to mention, it wasn't our idea to change the site for this. We're going to have to, but Brandon, you and I should talk to BIPIC and see if they'll just let us go back to the old site because it's obviously causing people a lot of problems.
Sounds good.
So, yep, okay. Overview of recent developments. This is just a reminder that there is that spreadsheet. It's one of the tabs of the larger COVID spreadsheet. So Tim actually offered to start keeping this updated, but it's a quick summary of what every individual manufacturer is doing, what every thread is doing, et cetera. I know I need to update it to show that we now have draft comments on the proposed rule that people can use. Also, we'll repeat this session sometime in the next week or so for all the people who seem unable to get in. But just remember, you can always go to that site and get what should be, if not the most recent information, close to the most recent information. I'm not going to go over these updates in great detail just because we've done them in past sessions. But in terms of pickpocketing, this is just a piece of information. The 2 members on Capitol Hill, the chair of the House, the ranking member of the House Energy and Commerce and the chair of the Senate Help Committee are asking for comments on ways to improve the 340B program. You can find more about that on 340B Noddlepod advocacy. For the executive order, the deadline to submit comments on the proposed rule implementing the executive order is 2 weeks from yesterday. See post on Noddlepod for more information on that. In terms of 340B claims data and submission, the requirement to submit 340B claims data, we recently heard that on the 340B ESP site, also known as the second site, goes by many different names, a grand total of 30 covered entities in the entire country had signed up to give data through that site. Obviously, people share concerns about the legality of sharing that data, not to mention the necessity and the appropriateness of sharing that data. So please know that if you did not sign up to provide data via that site, you are definitely in the vast majority there. So far, Merck was the manufacturer who said that they would impose significantly more burdensome requirements on health centers and other 340B providers if they had not. Thank you, Lee. If they did not provide the data, Merck has not provided additional information about how they're going to respond to the vast majority of covered entities that have not done so. So still on a waiting pattern there. Sanofi said if you do not provide the data, we will stop shipping contract pharmacy 340B price drugs to contract pharmacies effective October 1st. They have taken that step. They have stopped shipping to contract pharmacies. Even if you have no in-house pharmacy, they are still not shipping to even a single contract pharmacy. The third manufacturer who was demanding this data was Novartis. Novartis has actually not taken the active step. They also said that they would not ship 340B price drugs to contract pharmacies effective October 1st if you didn't provide the data. As of earlier today, they were still shipping those drugs, 340B price drugs, to contract pharmacies. They hadn't, I'm looking for a better analogy, pulled the trigger or whatever on that. They haven't publicly said that they're backing down, so there's no it's very possible they could announce this afternoon that they're no longer shipping to contract pharmacies if you don't give data, but they haven't done that yet. Please just know that. So then also in terms of not shipping, let me go into the next slide. In terms of not shipping to contract pharmacies, Eli Lilly and AstraZeneca are both not shipping to contract pharmacies. So we have 3 who aren't all together right now. Eli Lilly, they began September 1st, not shipping to contract pharmacies. AstraZeneca and Sanofi began on October 1st. Okay. Merck and Novartis are in this sort of not a twilight zone where they may do something suddenly. We just don't know when, and we don't know when. A request that I have, and Tim might mention this again, that is really, really important. HRSA if HRSA is going to take any action against manufacturers for failing to ship 340B price drugs to contract pharmacies, they must get concrete information that that is happening. And the way to provide that contract information, that concrete information to HRSA is by using a form that Apexis has developed that says, hey, we tried to get these drugs at 340B price and we couldn't. You don't have to actually pay the full price for them. You just need to show that you tried to get them at the 340B price and didn't get it. We think it's very important that health centers who are encountering this submit this form to Apexis. Hey, Tim, if you have the link to where to find that form, could you maybe put that in the chat box too?
Well, Colleen, what I'd like to do, I put together a sample of this, and thank you to Sue.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
It was, I hadn't read it closely enough. I was in such a hurry to get it done. But I've also got Derek Peel working on this as well. What I'd like to do is put together one for AZ, one for Lilly, and one for Sanofi, so that you could simply take those. They'll already have sample drugs listed, all the information you need, print them off, fill in your name, number, sign it, check the right boxes, and it will hopefully save you time in doing this research. I won't have this available until early next week. I think I'll pull down the post I put up because I want the correct data. But the post that's on Nautopod now has a blank form that you can use, but I'll have more early next week. And one last thing on the previous slide came to my attention that Walgreens has actually been filling Sanofi prescriptions. If you have not alerted Walgreens that you did not sign up with Second Sight, they will continue to move forward. I was told that by someone today. Perhaps some of the rest of you have better news on this or more recent, but realize if you participate with Walgreens, make sure that they have cut off all Sanofi products to your Walgreens contract pharmacies. Thanks.
Tim, just let me be clear. Walgreens, if you haven't come up Sanofi products, will fill the patient script with a full price, not a 340B price of the Sanofi product.
Because
so that could be incredibly financially.
Especially if it's for EPAP or sliding fee patients. For your commercial patients, yeah, you'll break even perhaps, or maybe lose a little, but you could lose a lot on Lantus prescriptions, say, that were being filled for your uninsured patients. So just make sure that you all reach out to your Walgreens folks and ensure that Sanofi products have been discontinued as allowable products for them to dispense under their 340B contract with you.
Okay. And my guess is, Tim, people probably want to get that in writing in case there's any question later, that Walgreens went ahead and filled it with a regular price Sanofi product.
That would be great. I'd make the phone call, get it done right away, follow up with an email confirming that it has been done.
Got it. Okay. A couple questions on this form since you just got into the form. Let's say, can we say we are trying to get 340B pricing in the form if we blocked all the NDCs? Can we still file the form if we were the ones who blocked the NDC?
One of the forms says unable to obtain 340B pricing. Not that I was actually paid more than 340B, simply that I wasn't able to get 340B pricing. That's the one that we will use.
Okay.
340B
So
pricing
it's not like
unavailable. That
Okay.
was the term on the form.
So the answer to that question then is yes. Even if you blocked it, you just put that you blocked it because of this. Okay. Another question. The form describes wanting one form per labeler. Maybe that means manufacturer per labeler code. Would it be better to submit 3 different forms?
That is correct. So if any of you saw my first post, I had one from each manufacturer. Sue pointed out that that was incorrect. So I pulled that off of Notpod. And I've got actually, Derek is working on doing one for each manufacturer for me. So hopefully he can have that for us early next week. He's out of town till Monday, I know.
Okay, another question. What document do you recommend providing to HRSA regarding your efforts to remedy the lack of a 340B price? I emailed Lily and got the letter sent to me to use, but wondered if we have to reach out to the manufacturer each time when we know we are not getting the 340B price. I wouldn't think so at all. I don't have the document pulled up in front of me, but you know, I checked like 4 boxes that I checked what the OPay ceiling price was. I checked what my wholesaler price was, and I was unable to receive it at that price. On the form, I did attach, and I showed like what boxes to check. It's a separate PDF because on the Word document, it wouldn't let me put check marks in or anything. So take a look at that. But again, I'll have more, and I will start a new post early next week when I have a form for each individual. It won't list every product by the manufacturer, and I don't know that that's necessary to get the point across. If we get, 400, 500 health centers sending this in saying we can't get 340B drugs, 340B price medications, that's going to be impactful. Whether you list 20 of them or you list 3, I think you're good. I would just say that in general, this is a do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good situation. Send it in early, late, often, whatever the expression is. But I think it is important that HRSA see over and over again the impact of this. So this is happening on the ground. Just an FYI, if you want me to open up your line, click the raise your hand button, and I'm keeping an eye on that, and I'm happy to open up people's lines. Also, I'm sorry. Also on the topic of contract pharmacy, just factual information that NAC is expecting to file its own lawsuit against HRSA around the contract pharmacy restrictions. I would expect that will happen on Monday, and thank you to all of the health centers who have assisted in preparing that. So moving on to, the issue of the Caldero switch from discounts to rebates. I guess the good news per se, but I don't want to tempt fate. Calderos had said back in August that they were going to launch this new process of making us pay full price up front and then apply to them for rebates, that they were going to launch that process back around like September 8th or something. Well, it's 5 weeks later and they haven't done anything. They've basically gone dark for a month. I am not exhaling yet. I am still holding my breath, but I'm thankful that at least this particular battle I'm thankful for the fact that they've gone dark for a little while. But I just want to be clear that we don't know where that's going. That also could rear its head later this afternoon. Okay. Here's just back on the topic of the form, the Apexis form to HRSA, including a screenshot from the wholesaler is something the hospitals are doing for when the price is unavailable. So, okay, I think that's it for the key updates right now. So with that, I am going to, here's the 1-minute evaluation. I'll copy that into the chat in a minute. But I'm going to turn it over to Tim to talk about operational issues. With any luck, I'll even be able to give you the ball, Tim.
No, let's see what happens.
Yes, I did it. Good. It
All
should
right.
be. It says it's passing them to you. I don't see any hands raised, but please, people, feel free to raise your hands if you have any questions at all. Okay, Tim, all you.
Well, what we thought we wanted to do today, we're going to re-hit some of these topics that we covered last month. And I thought Logan or that Jengis was out of town, but he is not. So what I've asked these folks to do is to kind of quickly discuss their topic and then how that has worked for them since October 1st in making those changes in their health centers, just to provide all of you a little bit more of the operational suggestions on how to make this a reality. So Logan, if you, or actually Jengis, you're first. If you can unmute yourself, or let me see if I can. Jengis, are you able to unmute yourself?
Let me see if I can. Too. Great. You got to love this. Wait a second. I think I can. Jengis, it should be open now.
Looks like that.
Nope. Still not working.
Do you want to pass him the ball? Let me see if I can. There.
I just did. Okay.
Jengis, see if you can unmute yourself.
Just want to go back to the old system.
Oh, I do too.
Okay. Jengis, why don't you keep trying and we can move to the next topic.
All right. Well, it's a matter of if we can get Logan's unmuted as well now.
Okay.
Logan, are you?
Is that working?
Are you there, Logan?
Yes.
Yay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
As we're choosing, some of these manufacturers are allowing us to choose one contract pharmacy. I think the first thing to know is that there are some, Jengis just technically said the internet went out, so he's jumping back on. As you're trying to make these decisions, know that there's some manufacturers that are allowing one contract pharmacy per entity or one contract pharmacy per site without an in-house pharmacy. So that's important to know that distinction. So probably the first step that I would take when evaluating this is to check utilize your EMR and your third-party administrator information to evaluate the pharmacies with the largest utilization. So this could be different for each of the manufacturers. For example, AstraZeneca may be higher at pharmacy A, pharmacy B may be higher for Sanofi. So after you do that, I think it's just important to evaluate. You don't want to start your one contract pharmacy being one that is rarely used for 340B claims. So after that, you're going to also want to consider distance from your site. If it's the one per covered entity, it may be more, if you choose a site that's more central to your footprint. That may not be possible. Some health centers, like my own, or I'm over 4,000 square miles of covered area. So just, I would say do your best, pick your site. But if you have one of the manufacturers that allows you one per site, you can be a little bit funkier with which site you choose. So there are some other options I'd look into when you're choosing your contract pharmacies that aren't necessarily 340B rated, but are other values that the pharmacies can provide. So does the pharmacy provide home delivery? This may allow them to stretch the distance that your patients are being accessed. Do they provide other services such as immunizations, durable medical equipment, or clinical services? Like I said, these aren't directly related to 340B, but they're going to increase our patient's health and increase our satisfaction that the patients have with that pharmacy, which will keep them going back to that pharmacy. And I think the final issue to look at with the pharmacy itself is, do they have a cash discount program? You don't want to choose a site that doesn't, especially if you do not have an in-house pharmacy, and then not have an option for your uninsured patients. So I'd also advise asking the site managers and the providers, get their opinion on their site. So that's something we're currently doing right now with AstraZeneca. The other manufacturer, we're not allowed to do that because we do have an in-house pharmacy. So all the other sites except my own, which there's an in-house here, we are polling our providers and site managers, getting their input. We're not predisposing them by looking at the data, giving them the data the most utilized. But we want to get their input, and then we can make a decision. We'll weigh that with the utilization data in order to make the decision for the best pharmacy for each site. And I think that you'll have more buy-in from your providers recommending that pharmacy to their patients if they are part of the decision-making process. So I think finally I want to mention there's some mail-order pharmacies that are encouraging selecting them as your one contract pharmacy, and it makes sense in some aspects. It could provide access to all of your patient footprints, but there are some they can receive their medication at. Also, they have a phone. Or a access to a credit or debit card, which are all part of the contract pharmacy mail order model. So it's definitely an option. Some have cash programs, some do not, but just weigh all those options before you make that decision ultimately. As I said, we're currently in the process of deciding our contract pharmacies for AstraZeneca. Since it's allowed one per site, but because we have an in-house pharmacy, we're left off on the Sanofi, the contract pharmacy process. That's kind of the process we're going through internally, and I think it hits the biggest points in order to make those decisions, but ultimately they have to be decisions made by your health center.
Thank you, Logan. I do want to let all of you know, Colleen's asked me to put together a bit of a toolkit, and we're going to cover the points that you can see here. And I've asked each of the presenters to put some of their thoughts down on paper. And so it's going to be one long document that will include all of these things. So if you didn't get notes on what Logan just presented, he sent me something very nice already that I'm going to include in that document. Hopefully we'll have that available early next week, posted on NaDLPod. Probably on the 340B pharmacy one, as opposed to the advocacy. So thank you again, Logan. I appreciate that. The next topic was on establishing an in-house pharmacy. That was one I was going to carry. We'll kind of postpone that. I can let you know. I will be including about a 5-page paper that I did on in-house pharmacy. Is it right for me, basically, in this toolkit, so you'll get a lot of information there, or feel free to reach out to me. I guess now we'll move on to Matt Birch from Sun Life. He had talked last time about how increasing our capture rate for the in-house pharmacy. So let's see if we can open Matt's line and have an update.
I think Matt's line is open. Can you guys hear me?
Yay, Matt.
Tim, can you put my pretty face up there on the screen instead of the slide?
Well,
I always have show and tell. I want to show people. We got to do some show and tell.
I'll see if this works.
Arizona show and tell is always very fun.
Well, last time for those, Tim's playing with the system. If you can scroll through and find my face, there's some show and tell. Last time I did show and tell,
we found you.
I stood in my parking lot so that people could see the competitor that lives across the street from my parking lot. And really, so there's kind of a couple points I want to make when we're talking about increasing your in-house pharmacy utilization, and that's kind of an important piece of this whole puzzle because the contract pharmacy game is being threatened. So we at Sun Life are looking to migrate as many prescriptions as we can over to our in-house pharmacy, And what I like to say is, while still honoring patient choice in the whole issue, because our patients, maybe they want to use one of our big box competitors, maybe they want to use one of our contract pharmacy partners. So what we need to do is remember that we run a business. So we need to increase our service that we have to people. We need to, hang on, somebody's trying to tell me something. Can I put you on hold for 10 seconds?
Sure.
It's one of those days. Well, I'll take that as an opportunity to say that, Tim, I think we need to add a section to that toolkit. I'm using the royal we because I really mean you, about Walgreens, because there seem to be so many questions coming up about, can you use just one Walgreens site or not? We're getting different answers in different parts of the questions in the world. You have to proactively tell them not to fill with Sanofi drugs or you're going to get billed. You better put it in writing that you told them. It just sounds like there's a lot of stuff coming up like that.
Okay.
I'll do what I can.
Sorry, guys. Somebody posted a letter on my window that said urgent, and I was like, uh-oh, so I should have probably checked in on that. So anyway, remember, it's a crazy day here in Arizona, but remember, we run a business, so we have to increase our services. We can't just operate at just cruise control. Remember, we are keeping up with national competitors. We are keeping up with big business. We're keeping up with big box. So if our patients want to drive through, let's find ways to get our patients drive-through. If our patients want curbside, let's see if we can get our patients curbside. We need to increase our service, decrease our wait times, and really remember that we are competing in a lot of our communities with big box pharmacies. Now, we're also hosting provider and patient focus groups here in Casa Grande and all of our other health center locations. Those are going pretty well. We're getting a lot of good feedback from patients that discuss hours of operation because they like how late they can pick up prescriptions at competing pharmacies in town, and they love drive-through and curbside. And remember, that sometimes the very first point of contact for patients when they come in to the health center is the front desk. Then they go back to medical staff. Then they go to the primary care provider staff, and you've got to get all those people involved in trying to pitch your in-house pharmacy. And am I, for those of you that can see me at this point in time, am I ashamed to advertise for our local pharmacy location? Oh no, we've got Sun Life Pharmacy mugs that we're walking around with in the clinic just to try to get some local advertising around at our health centers, at our clinics, so that people are always aware, send prescriptions in the direction of our in-house pharmacy. Well, there's a lot of other stuff that we can do too. We've got benefit of having access to the electronic health record, so we can do transitions of care. We can call patients. We can do medication reconciliation. We can change the pharmacies in the electronic health record to help drive business our direction. And again, continuously telling the providers and provider staff how important it is to send prescriptions to in-house pharmacies and to continue to educate them on the percent of the bottom line of the health center that pharmacy represents is important in telling this story. So those are the big ways that we're looking to increase the capture rate here at Sun Life.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you as well for putting some of your thoughts down so I can include them in the toolkit. I appreciate your help.
Absolutely.
We have Logan back online. I'm going to jump ahead first. Before I put Logan on, I want to show you a couple of things. Number 5 here, helping patients afford drugs that have suddenly jumped in price. If I get a chance, I'll cover that today. But if not, it will be in the toolkit. But I'm going to go ahead and yes.
Can I say there's a lot of new questions coming in the chat box, too. I accidentally hadn't set it up so people could send them to everybody, but we'll want to leave a little time for those questions, too.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay.
So I'll include this. You'll see it on your slide. This first off, this was just an example in Michigan. Brett Gingrich from Cherry Health put this together. We have a preferred drug list in Michigan for Medicaid and Medicaid MCOs, and he needed to put this together. So this was something he shared with their staff. You can see that some Sanofi products and Lilly products are still included because they are part of our preferred drug list, but he has highlighted, in fact, that these in yellow are our 340B preferred. And then lastly, I do want to make sure I hit this because there was a question about AstraZeneca. Our understanding is that AstraZeneca is allowing health centers to have one contract pharmacy per registered site that does not have an in-house pharmacy. And we have folks that have bounced back and forth with them. They've allowed some, they've not allowed some. What I've included here is from a health center who preferred not putting their name out, which is great. But they outlined for us their steps in how they were able to do this. So I'm not going to go through each of these steps, but I really want you to take a look at these slides. And this person did a great job of going through and telling us how it happened and what they did to try to fix this. Her, best guess at what worked was, boy, I'm sorry, the slides were jumping and I haven't touched them, is, being courteous, kill them with kindness, be appreciative, don't be demanding, because in the big picture, this is only going to help us if we can get them to work with us. So I'm not going to walk through this step by step, but I'd like you all to take a look at this. If you've had issues getting contract pharmacies, one per site that does not have an in-house, this could be helpful. So we'll go back. I guess, do you want to bring Cengiz in now, Colleen, or do you want to just jump on
if we can, just for a couple minutes, if he's here, he's having IT. It seems.
Yeah, I'm here.
You there, Cengiz? Awesome.
Yep. And I know we'll keep it quick, and I'm providing all of this in more detail for Tim into that toolkit. So considerations for tackling those patients that need to be switched. So proactively, you would have tried to identify through your third-party administrator TPA reporting, but likely you're already identifying because you're identifying them on the fly now. We're past that point about proactive identification. Those patients who are using your cash program that are affected are going to start showing up for their refills, and those prices are going to be either rejecting as not available, or they're going to be given the retail price depending on how the wholesaler has it sorted out. So if that's the case, I would encourage you, and what I have done is I work with especially our independent pharmacies, talk with them over the phone, and then I sent them a follow-up email explaining what we talked about, and basically having them be your eyes and ears as patients come in for refills on medications that are affected, and I provided them a list of the medications that are affected, which will also be provided with Tim. I leverage those good relationships that you have with independents. They can prospectively identify those affected patients. A lot of them can run their own reports for all the Sanofi products or all the Lilly products, AstraZeneca. And then also they know if we can identify them, we can potentially get things switched before the patient's due again for that next one. Instead of waiting until they're out of their insulin, we can work with our pharmacy partners to get that to get those ironed out ahead of time. So leveraging your clinical pharmacist is the only last point I'll say, and that is for those of making those therapeutic decisions. I have a document to lay out of what is, what's available, but I would leverage your clinical pharmacist to look through the chart and allergies, past intolerances, what they tried before, to help make those decisions and leverage their influence with the providers and helping decrease any administrative burden. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Cengiz, very much. And Tim, you there? Tim looks frozen now. Okay.
Oh, no, I'm frozen because I'm reading the questions. So what do you have,
okay.
Colleen?
No, I was just copying. A lot of them came straight to me. How about this?
Oh.
Has anyone been successfully able to get AstraZeneca to ship to one of their contract pharmacies? I've heard there have been problems. Anybody who has an answer, please raise your hand and I'll open up your line. And people are looking for a different email for AstraZeneca than membership at AstraZeneca. because not just wondering how people are actually getting a hold of people in AstraZeneca.
I can say
Hannah
on that
says,
one, I did use a different email. I used an individual. That person responded the first time I emailed them on behalf of NAC and did not respond the second time at all. So I don't know if anyone's had better luck responding to someone individually.
Yeah, if somebody has a name of somebody there, that would be fabulous. And another question on AstraZeneca, what information do we have to provide them to get one contract pharmacy site? Do we know? I know like Eli Lilly wanted your firstborn.
Yeah.
For their one contract pharmacy site?
So from my understanding with AstraZeneca, they want you to, on your letterhead, company letterhead, to provide the pharmacies, their name, their street address, their phone number, and also their HIN number, which is the health industry number, which can be provided by the wholesaler. It's a unique number to that exact shipping address for the 340B account, and then or the DEA number, and I think another one might have been MPI or NCPDP. I would encourage you to choose either the DEA or the HIN number. The DEA is how things are connected on OPAYUS, and have a little bit more of a federal designation. And I know that depending on who you talk with at AstraZeneca, some of them say no, the HIN number is required, and others say no, we can work with just the DEA numbers. What typically happens is AstraZeneca is working with the wholesalers, and they will work directly with the wholesaler to get the HIN number anyways. However, that's a very slow process, and I do think AstraZeneca was a little in over their heads of everything that's going on, and I think that they had a misunderstanding of what and how OPAYUS works. But it's a lot easier to find the DEA numbers because you as an entity needed the DEA number in order to register that contract pharmacy, so you probably readily have that. The HIN number, you're going to have to work with your wholesaler. I would say if it's going to delay anything, choose the DE number to get it submitted, and then work with your wholesaler after to get the HIN number.
Great. Hey, Tim, I took over control of the screen just because there's a bunch of questions about, like, does Sanofi allow one contract pharmacy if you have none, no in-house? The answer is no. What are the different rules for different ones? And I just wanted, this is mega spreadsheet, and this is you can see this information here. You can see what it says about Eli Lilly. So this is a good place if you're having a hard time keeping track of who is doing what. For instance, AstraZeneca, if you have 10 sites and 2 of them have in-house, those 2 cannot have a contract pharmacy assigned to them. But the other 8 each can have a contract pharmacy assigned to them. And it's not clear, but we think it's not like if you've got a drug filled at site number 3 that you have to go to the contract pharmacy associated with site number 3. We think you can go anywhere. So AstraZeneca gives more flexibility, but still creates a lot of complications. But if you're getting confused about this, go to Mega Spreadsheet, and we will update this as regularly as we can. And link to Mega Spreadsheet is in the slides and should also be in the chat box. Okay. Now, Tim, I'll let you have your screen back.
Well, I think we've come up on time. I don't know what more you want me to cover today.
Okay, I'm just looking through if people are still on, if there's other questions that we have not yet gotten to. The extended registration dates, health centers can register new sites through November 27th. But contract pharmacy arrangements, kind of a sore subject right now, but if you want to register new contract pharmacy arrangements, the deadline is today at midnight Eastern, okay? So you got to do that now. Where do we get a copy of today's slides? They'll be on NoddlePod. If you need an invitation, they're posted already?
Yes.
And if you need an invitation to NoddlePod, email Susan Hansen. I'm going to put her email in here again. Also, clearly we're going to have to do something about the log-on information for these sessions, but if you want an invitation to what is supposed to be the right log-on for the monthly office hours, email Susan about that as well. Poor Susan, I'm volunteering you for all this stuff. But feel free to email Susan and just be like, put me on everything related to pharmacy, and she'll take care of that.
Colleen, let me jump in. I've had 3 text messages while we've been on office hours from folks who Walgreens did not block Sanofi. And so I'm real serious. Make that your priority today. If you have a contract pharmacy with Walgreens, get a hold of them, get confirmation via email that they have stopped using Sanofi products in your name.
Okay. And also, I thank you for the people who have told me that the Novartis, that mega spreadsheet needs to be updated to reflect the fact that Novartis hasn't actually pulled the trigger yet. Sorry, I can't come up with a better analogy yet. I see. Okay. Are we missing any other? We're happy to leave it open if there's additional questions, but I feel like we've covered most of them. And you know what? We're going to have to rerun this anyway for all the people who couldn't get on. Kim, do you see anything, or anybody else I don't see any raised hands. Anybody else have urgent issues? Okay, I think it's a wrap then. Thank you again to our Cracker Jack team of people. One thing I will really miss about this particular role is all the amazing pharmacy people who volunteer their time so generously to their health center colleagues around the country. You guys are awesome. Okay, and but I'll see you all next month, if not before. Thank you.